Shoot, I'm sorry.
Good evening. We'll call to order Lathrop-Manteca Fire Board meeting. Lathrop-Manteca Fire Board meeting, August 15th, regular board meeting. We have no closed session. We'll start with roll call, please.
Vice Chair Mark Elliott.
Here.
Director Gloriana Rhodes.
Here.
Director Jeremy Coe.
Present.
Director Tosh Ishihara.
Here.
Thank you.
Excuse me, didn't we have a mouse last time?
Oh, there's a.
It's not, yeah, it's not letting me move it sideways, but not up and down. Oh, okay. Here it is, here it is. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, please, let's do the pledge of allegiance, please. Steph. Gloriana, could you lead us there?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, thank you. A declaration of conflict of interest to my left,
None. None.
None.
and none for me. Presentation, we have none. Any public comments?
None at this time.
Thank you. Consent items, items 8.1 through 8.4. Do we have any discussion, or do you have anything?
He normally reads them.
Reads
so read
them,
'em for you.
perfect.
All right, consent calendar, item 8.1, July 18th, 2019, regular fire board meeting minutes. 8.2, monthly register of warrants. 8.3, receive and file July 2019 incident and training report. 8.4, receive and file monthly year-to-date budget report.
Any discussion or questions from the board?
I have none.
I move that we approve consent items 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4.
I'll second that. Can we have roll call, please?
Director Gloriana Rhodes.
Yes.
Director Jeremy Coe.
Yes.
Director Tosh Ishihara.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mark Elliott.
Yes. Item 9, scheduled items, 9.1. Discuss the direction for filling the vacancy on the fire board. Chief?
Yeah, we have a presentation for you. Executive Assistant Haley Salazar is going to be going over that.
Thank you.
All right, so item 9.1, direction for filling the vacancy on the fire board. A little background information. At the July 18th, 2019 regular fire board meeting, Chairman John Gish announced that he would be resigning from the fire board due to moving out of the district. Chairman Gish was elected to serve on the fire board until December of 2020. We've contacted the San Joaquin County Registrar of Voters Office and received direction from our attorney regarding options on how the district should fill the vacancy on the fire board. The attorney outlined the procedures and provided a timeline to fill the vacancy following Government Code Section 1780. Step 1, notify the county elections official of the vacancy within 15 days of the latter of the date on which the district board is notified of the vacancy or the effective date of the vacancy. Staff has already completed this step. Step 2, the fire board can then choose to appoint a new member or call and pay for an election. So with step 2A, appointment, the board may appoint a new member to fill the vacancy within 60 days of the resignation. The 60-day deadline that we're looking at is September 16th. Due to the vacancy occurring during the second half of the term, the appointed director holds office for the balance of the outgoing director's term. Step 2A, appointment, looking at our potential timeline for this. If you do choose to go with option 2A, Friday, August 16th, we could start accepting applications through Friday, August 30th at the administration office. And we can hold a special meeting September 10th, 2019 to review and discuss applicants and make an appointment of the new director to the fire board. Step 2B would be an election. The board may call an election by September 16th. The election will be held on March 3rd, 2020, the next established election date that is 120 days or more after the date the election is called. The county will, of course, charge the district its share of the cost to conduct the election, and the seat would remain vacant, until election results are certified next spring. Step 3, if the fire board does not fill the vacancy by either appointment or election, the County Board of Supervisors has 90 days to appoint a director or call an election to fill the vacancy. Step 4, if the County Board of Supervisors does not call an election within the 90-day period, then the district board must do so. That election must take place November 5th of 2020, which would be the next established election date, that is 130 days or more after the date is called. Staff is seeking direction from the board on which option they would like the district to use to fill the vacancy on the fire board. Option 1 is appointing a member to the board utilizing step 2A. Option 2 is call for an election utilizing step 2B. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any comments, Chief? Do you have anything to add prior to discussion?
We didn't list any other options because we assume the board wants to take action and not allow the Board of Supervisors to take action. So I thought it was going to be redundant and silly to do that
Yes.
because this board is very proactive with that. And then obviously calling the election, we just wanted to make sure everybody understood what that entailed. So we're just looking for direction, however you want us to move forward. It's the board's choice, and we will go into action with whatever your direction is.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Comments from the board?
I have a question. Just out of curiosity, what was the last cost of an election to the district?
Too much.
I believe it was a little over $15,000. But that was the election before, because we didn't get charged for the last one because nobody ran unemployed. But it was about $15,000.
Well, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yes, I agree.
Why spend $15,000?
Yeah. And so my questions would be, if we are going to appoint, would we handle taking applications, I imagine, and then through an interview process, the board would all participate, or how would we handle that interview process?
So that is a little more clear than it used to be. In the past, there had been, and we haven't done it in a while. I was a young firefighter when we did it, but the board had put a couple members in charge of interviewing the candidates. That's not allowed anymore. So any interview has to take place in an open forum with all of the board present. So if you wanted to interview candidates, so we take applications. There's two things that you can do. You can take applications and you can appoint simply from the applications. We can give you the applications for you to read and you to research up. And then there'd be the first nomination. So there would be a nomination and there would be a second and then there'd be a vote. And if it was 2-2, then that would be null and void. Or if they didn't get the full vote, which it'd be hard to do because if you nominate in second, that's just like voting. But that would be 2-2. That means you'd go to the next person. Then there'd be another nomination, and then a second, and then a vote. And you'd continue until you got a majority of the board to vote. If you wanted to interview them, then we'd simply bring them into an open meeting, and you would then ask them questions. We could put questions together for the board if they'd like. They could send them to us individually, not amongst each other, but individually if they'd like questions added to like an interview, like an oral interview panel. We could invite the candidates after they apply. That night, you'd be able to ask questions that you all agreed on, so to speak. Not necessarily will you all talk with each other. We got to make sure we're not violating the Brown Act. You'd all agree on those questions, and then it would go through the same process. Right then and there'd be a nomination, and it'd be in any order. So it doesn't have to be in the order the applications are received or any order of anybody. They would just nominate, I'll say Jean Neely just for lack of, not having anybody else here, but Jean Neely, and then a second, and then again, we'd go through the voting process as I described before. So the difference is whether you want to interview them in an open forum or you just want to look at the applications. We did put an application in your book, your binder for you, and we just put that together. We basically pulled that offline. So did everybody get it? Did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was in,
So a little different. We obviously post that. We have to post that at all our stations and wherever we post our regular agenda. And we'd post it online.
I just have some
Yes.
comments.
Yes, Director?
For 30 years, I've been saying the same thing. Unless there is nobody or, you know, something comes out right after an election, spending the money for a new election makes no sense. Because of that, I always favor the appointment unless it's a different situation. But because I've also said this for many years, I've done quite a few appointments in the past as part of a board or a council or whatever. When we select, and I say select because we're not voting for anybody, we're just selecting somebody to fill that position. In an appointment, it's not about popularity, it's about experience. It's kind of like a job. You know, we have the responsibility to ensure that the citizens of Lathrop get the most qualified because we really don't know what would come out in an election that was more popular. So I would definitely want to look at the interviews because I'm now looking at qualifications. I'm not looking at anything else. The application doesn't have a lot in terms of making those determinations, but I think most of us, you know everybody and know their history in terms of what they've done and so forth. But again, it all depends too on how many applications we get to whether we really do interviews or not. Actually, when I was appointed to the Planning Commission years and years ago, there wasn't going to be an interview, but there were so many of them that the council at that point decided that they would like to at least speak to them. So I don't know how, what I'm trying to say is I don't know how structured this body really wants to be. We may get one application, we may get 22. I'm more in favor, you know how I feel, because that's the way I've always felt. It's not a secret to anybody. An appointment has to be based on qualifications. In fact, I spoke for our board member here when he got appointed to council. Same thing. You got to pick somebody that is qualified to do the job. But in terms of that, we may, when we look at the candidates, not knowing who they're going to be at this point, make certain decisions. I mean, if we get 3 newbies that have never done anything in terms of this and we all feel the same way, we may not want to go any further. If we think that there's going to be some political backlash because of that, we may still ask one question or, you know, it just depends. But that's the way I'm just speaking my mind at this point. I don't know how the rest of the body feels.
Any other comments?
you know,
Tosh?
I feel that, same with you, Director Rhodes, about interviewing, because we have to figure, and besides, there isn't much time left on this, term, okay? And I'm against spending any money for that. I think it's, that's out. But I think we have to pick someone who is qualified, just like a job interview to fill this position, because, someone that hasn't, no knowledge, and just, some of them might be just come right to moved into the district, so. No, I like to see, interview of.
Okay. Do you have any
I
other
have
comments?
lots of questions.
Okay. Well, I think we have a consensus, and I'll let you answer your questions. I think we have a consensus of definitely doing an appointment or interview process. I think we're definitely going to, we have a consensus there. Also, I do like your idea of flexibility on how many applicants we get. I think that we don't have to make that decision tonight, but I definitely want to get all the questions answered. So, Director, do you have any other? Director Cole, any other questions maybe for the chief?
Well, I guess the first question is, are the same requirements still required as if it was someone that was to have to run as far as I don't know, you have to live within the district for a certain amount of time and all that stuff. Does that still apply?
Yep, absolutely.
So
I don't know
that
what
ans-
the-
So that helps that question.
Is there amount of time you have to live? I know you have to live within a district. Was there an amount of time you have to live? I don't think there's a.
I don't know, that's why, it was kind
Well,
of
you
my
have to be a
question.
registered voter, so that tells you right there that at least
Yeah.
6 months in the district, because that's about how long it's going to take you to get registered.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll check
If you
on
move-
that.
If you moved
But I
in
know you have to live within the
recently,
district.
to register, you wouldn't get registered for the next.
Well, that's true if they don't do,
Yeah.
but that is a requirement. That
Right, yeah.
passed some years ago. You have to be a
Right,
registered
right,
voter
right,
of the district,
correct.
yeah.
well, I guess my suggestion is we have that figured out before the next meeting, if there are any requirements.
Yeah, so going forward, we have to move on this. We can't wait. We have to appoint within 60 days.
No, I
So-
understand that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
But I'm saying we should be clear on what the guidelines are,
I see.
so we don't,
Oh, for the
so
interview.
we don't select somebody that
Oh.
isn't
Not eligible.
qualified.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Another question is, what if we don't get any response?
Well, I think then when you have a decision to make, either we would go for election or we could leave it open until
Yeah.
the next election. We can either way, we have to wait for March, correct, for election? So either way, I think we'd have to go through the election process, paying for that,
Okay,
which
So
would be in
it would
March.
go through the process that we just spelled out. So obviously, if nobody applies, you can't appoint anybody, then you can't call an election because there's nobody to run. I mean, I guess you could call the election and then see if anybody runs, but if nobody runs, then there's no election to pay for. You know what I mean? So then it goes to the Board of Supervisors, and if nobody applies then, you know what I mean, then they would call an election at the next election, which is the 120 days out.
If I may, I think we'll get people. I mean, I don't have even when they open for the Planning Commission, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that want to, there's a lot of people that have served that want to serve more. I mean, look at me. There's also a lot of new people that want to serve. But what I was going to say is, if it were to be that we didn't get anybody, which I doubt, the Board of Supervisors has a little bit more flexibility because they can solicit where we can't, you know? And that's why you see that when they have a vacancy, like when they had a vacancy in the Board of Supervisors, they were soliciting people to apply. Now, the people still applied, but they got, you know, unfortunately, at that point, then it would be the people that the Board of Supervisors solicits, you know, and it will be out of control. So we really need to make sure that we, you know, let people know that we are doing this.
I've had two people already request,
I was going to ask you that too. Since the announcement, if you've had any interest so far.
since it's been in the paper, right?
Okay. Let's just run our scenario. There's only one or two or three, and the board can't get a 3 or more votes on the same person. Then I guess our only option at that point is to go to an election. Is that correct?
Yes, I would, it's
Well-
the board's decision, but
And if I may as well, you know, you always have the potential of, you never want to be one short for too long of a period of time, because you never know what's going to happen in terms of sickness, illness, or, you know, conflicts. So,
Yeah, we need to make a decision, yeah. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion if do you have anything else, Director?
No?
Okay.
I'll
Entertain a
make the-
motion?
I'll make the motion to follow step
go
2.
back to,
Which is step,
so option 1 or option?
Option
I'll
one.
make the step 2A, I guess.
Option 1, appoint the member and utilizing step 2A. And step 2A. to
As
go-
recommended by the staff.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Director Gloriana Rhodes?
yes,
Director Jeremy Coe?
Yes.
Director Tosh Ishihara?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mark Elliott?
Yes. All righty, we'll move on to item 9.2. approval and adopt policy .60, conflict of interest policy. So do we have a presentation, or do we just need to review that?
We do have a presentation. Acting Executive Secretary, Executive Assistant's going to go over the presentation. I do want to talk about the policy itself. We are going to ask the board that the name of the policy, and it's a minor change, but it would be changed. We already have a conflict of interest policy, which explains, and she'll go into more detail, it has a different meaning, and this one is going to be changed to conflict of interest disclosure policy, because this one is about the 700 form. And she'll go into detail a little bit more about it. Go ahead, Becky. Go.
Item 9.2, approve and adopt policy .60, conflict of interest policy. The purpose of policy .60, conflict of interest policy, is to provide guidance in order to the necessary disclosure of assets, income, and business positions of designated district officials and employees. The policy clearly outlines and designates which positions require disclosures. The policy also outlines the different categories of disclosures and the appropriate forms one must fill out. By implementing this policy, it'll help maintain a uniform process of identifying individuals who must disclose and the documents required. Staff recommends the board approve and adopt governance policy 0.60, conflict of interest disclosure policy. So we do have the title change. The thing that would change is just to differentiate from our existing conflict of interest policy. The policy before you today, .60, defines how to properly disclose and who at what rank should complete a 700 form. The existing policy that we have defines what is considered a conflict of interest, provides framework for desired business operation, and code of conduct. Fiscal impact is none.
Alrighty, thank you. Any questions on item 9.1 or conflict of disclosure or conflict of interest disclosure policy? Just changing the title. Any questions for staff? Discussion?
No.
The only,
Question,
Mr. Chair, the only comment I would make is anytime we have a change of policy, it'd be nice if it was clearly marked what's being crossed out, what's being added, or
And absolutely, and so that's kind of the nuance of this. We're adding a policy. This is really adding this policy and not changing it. So that's why we didn't change. So we just talked about this just briefly today, because we looked and we're like, okay, we have a conflict of interest policy. This one really is mislabeled. So what I've tried to do for when we get requests for board policies, we just have one policy manual. But the board policies really reside in the 0.00 to 0.99. All of those, and we don't have all that exact numbers, but all of those numbers will be board-specific governance policies. We've really kind of narrowed those down. When people request, what's your board policies, we can send them that chunk. We don't need to send them what firefighter, how they're supposed to clean the floors. We haven't separated our policy manual, and that could be something that we could do in the future if we needed to. But right now, we really want to put all our governance. This one, .60, .60 is really a governance. It's about 700 forms and who really needs to, a higher level. The other one really just says anybody who has a conflict of interest, for these levels needs to understand that. So we wanted to make sure that they were both instead of trying to combine one. So that's why it's a new policy. But in the future, if we do change a policy, we will bring it to you with a review edit in there, crossed out, red, new stuff blue type thing.
and this wasn't the result of an audit, the audit or anything, where some of your other policy changes that have been coming out was directly related to that.
Right. So some of them not result of the audit because we have a conflict of interest, but more of a result of when we hired our consultant to come in to narrow down some of them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Director?
No, I just have one thing. The policy is really good. It's straight to the point or whatever. But it's mostly about filling the form. We still need, not in a policy, but maybe in some training, we still need someone to come in and tell us, okay, now that you have listed this in your form, what exactly does that mean? Because the law changed. I thought it was $500, now it's $100. You know, things change, and so maybe not necessarily tomorrow or whatever, but we really, the policy tells us what we must declare. It doesn't tell us what we do once we declare it. And it can't, because it's a training.
Right, and so we can, I think we have scheduled training for conflict of interest and ethics coming up, and those will be perfect questions
Perfect.
to ask. And so, but that's definitely something to get highlighted.
Okay, thank you. A good point. All right, I'll entertain a motion on item 9.2.
I move that we approve the policy on, okay, how did you outline it?
It's 6-0.
Go one page up.
Conflict.
Okay.
It's all right.
There you go, on the board.
Number 0.60, conflict of interest policy,
I'll second that.
Conflict of interest disclosure.
disclosure policy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Director Gloriana Rhodes.
Yes.
Director Jeremy Coe.
Yes,
Director Toshi Shihara.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mark Elliott.
Yes. Move to schedule item 9.3, authorization of the fire chief to move forward on establishing an ALS program.
Yes, we didn't put a PowerPoint or a presentation together for a reason. We really need guidance first before I start spending staff time, because there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. But if we get some guidance from the board, then I can start establishing, some costs. We have some rough costs. We can answer some questions of what it's going to cost, what it's going to entail. But as we move forward, when we did do Measure C, it did talk about advancing our emergency response and moving forward with potential ALS, and that was the intent of that when we move forward with getting the 40%. And Measure C has been performing very well. And so we're hoping to move forward with, and we've always been my intent, it wasn't in our goals and objectives this year, but it's been my intent for this organization to move us into an ALS program. We're not looking at transporting or doing anything like that. We're just looking at putting paramedics on fire engines at this point. So I just need direction from the board. We're going to retain AP Triton, who is a consultant that's been used all over. Actually, one of them is an ex-fire chief from Sac Metro that's really been involved heavily with ALS programs, so that he can assist us with what we need to do, the process to get done, and move forward with because we'll eventually have to go into an agreement with the county EMS director at some point. The first steps, obviously, is that we have to have some paramedics, and so we have 3 paramedics right now. We currently have 3, but it ranges from a battalion chief to a captain to a firefighter, and we're going to have to train some of our individuals. As we move forward and the district does move in the direction of ALS, then we can start hiring our firefighters ALS. And so there's obviously some stuff. We met and conferred with the union. We haven't come up with the final language of how that's going to be. There's incentive pay for paramedics throughout the county. We do see that it's about $25,000 to $30,000 to train some of our people. So we initially will move forward with training. The initial, I think we need a minimum of 12 firefighters or 12 staff that's trained to ALS in order to staff the 3 stations that are going to be utilized initially with Measure C money in the district. Eventually, if we have money to staff it in the outlying areas, we will do that also, and the program will evolve. For instance, even the stations in the city are not going to all be instant ALS. We have to start off with 1 engine. So really looking at the location of where our ALS ambulance response is, we'd want to put it somewhere where it's not at, so that first paramedic on scene would be able to, assist with life-saving skills at the ALS level. So there's a lot of different opportunities for us, but I need to get direction from the board before I start spending staff time and money looking at all of the aspects of it. So that's why we'll get a better PowerPoint presentation as we move forward with it. But if I have the blessing of the board, I will get that done.
Any questions for staff regarding ALS?
Not
Director?
questions, I just have a comment.
Please, Director.
I think this is outstanding. I personally want to move forward.
Anything to my left? Comments on ALS?
No comment.
I just have a quick question. Of the agencies around us, Manteca or Stockton, what are the percentages, or do you know, Chief, how many carry paramedics? Are they carrying them per staff? How
So,
the numbers?
I've been told this by somebody. If you start in Hawaii and work your way east, ALS stops at Lathrop-Manteca.
Okay.
And then it continues to Stockton and Ripon, but it stops at Lathrop-Manteca.
So we're kind of an outlier as far as ALS, and
Yeah.
it's pretty much the standard now. Okay. Any other comments or questions for the chief? Okay.
Do we have an estimated cost for this consultant?
No, but I have the ability to do up to $25,000 before I have to come to the, actually, I think it's more than that, but if it was going to be more than $25,000, I'd come to the board. We initially want them just to get involved. The problem is sometimes there can be moving targets, and we want to get those narrowed down. They have the experience. They've done this. We're going to request, I could simply just request from EMS that we want to do that, and if whatever response they give me, then I can start doing that. I want to get somebody involved. AP Triton has an attorney that's really focused on this kind of stuff, and they will really narrow it down, and they'll give us direction where we need to go and initially start that. And then it takes personalities out of that, and we have somebody, a consultant that's a professional that's done it before.
So I know this isn't just something that you just came up with. I know it's been a long-term goal. And
Yeah.
I know you spent a lot of time already with the EMS agency of the county. Do you see any more speed bumps with that office?
No, and the reason why I don't, but I think this is going to be really helpful having a consultant come in, is because when we went to the advanced BLS program, we were really trying to get ALS, and I was already trying to maneuver into an ALS program, and I was running into, decisions that necessarily, comments that I got from the EMS director was, we have too many paramedics in the county now. And my comment back to him was, and he'd say there wouldn't be enough contact time. And I get that, and he may be right in some areas, but I don't think would be in our area. But even if it is, let's just walk down that road if it is, that's what training's for. That's what we have training in for. And if it comes to that becomes a deficit in us, then maybe we need to look at putting our paramedic riding on the ambulance to get that extra contact time, so that it's just not in our area. They would be able to get those patient contacts, because it is important to have patient contacts. You can only do so much on a mannequin, and I truly understand it. The other thing too was that you don't have a CQI program, and you don't have, but we do. So his offer at the time was, this is a stepping stone for you, accept the BLS advanced program, because we wanted ALS then, but I didn't have the paramedics, so it worked out for both of us. Accept the BLS program, get your CQI in place, get your PCRs in place, and then we'll talk about it. So, and I think that's where we're at. We're at our next step, and so I don't see any speed bumps, but I think it'll be better to have somebody come in to work on the agreement, because that, I think, has been, some of the other departments have had a challenge with their agreements with ALS, with the ALS programs that they have, Stockton and Tracy, with the EMS director. So instead of me trying to maneuver through that, let's get somebody in here that's dealt with it before.
And to clarify, City of Tracy and the City of Stockton, with the exception of the City of Ripon with having their own transport, those are the only two cities in the county that currently have ALS paramedic firefighters.
Yes.
So Manteca doesn't have it yet. So we'd be ahead of the curve to our neighbors, which is not always a bad thing. So I am in favor of this, but I do have some hesitation with the additional cost and stuff. But you know the saying, if it saves one life,
Yeah.
it's worth it, right?
Right. And so the cost for this will be utilizing potentially Measure C. So,
For the stations within the city, unfortunately,
Right.
your longer response times are the ones in the rural areas where they would benefit more in a lot of
Absolutely.
cases.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to authorize the fire chief to move forward with establishing an ALS program.
Okay, I'll second that. Roll call, please.
Director Gloriana Rhodes,
Yes.
Director Jeremy Coe,
Yes.
Director Tosh Ishihara,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mark Elliott.
Yes. Item 10, informational items, 10.1, Chief's report.
So report on the open houses, I think they were very successful. I think, some of them were attended more than others, obviously, but I think that I was pretty happy with the setup, the organization, the crews did a great job. Smokey was there doing his thing, his and her thing, and so we had a lot. What was, I think, was really rewarding for me is just to see the explorers, the CERT, the reserves, just coming together, and even some off-duty firefighters just coming in to have a good time with their family and enjoy, the open houses. I think that was really, really good. I did fall a little short, I think, with some expectations, and we're going to move forward with that. So next year we're going to be looking at. We found a box of pictures, and we're looking at putting a bunch of pictures together, maybe doing a slideshow, looking at the history of the organization. I don't know how I'm going to present it at the outstations yet, but the other stations have TVs that we can put them on and put something together so that people, when they walk through, they can see a slideshow of maybe the history of the organization. We're really trying to get something together. Put some easels up with potential, older pictures of where we've come and how because we're just talking about it the other day, we've been moving so fast, but we've come so far from when I started. And so we really want to acknowledge that and all the participation from from the volunteers to the first hired chief to where we're at today. So I think that's where I fell short in my expectation. And I want to make sure that we get that done next year. So we'll put that in play. We're doing gelati with the chief. So we were going to do coffee with the chief because the police chief does coffee with the chief, and we're still going to do coffee with the chief when the new Starbucks opens. But I'm kind of unfortunately for my waist, I'm a gelati fan, and so we reached out to them, and Haley did a phenomenal job, and they're even going to do a special gelati called the 5-alarm gelati. So it's going to be kind of cool. So we're looking forward to being out there and answering questions. It's been publicized. So if you guys want to attend, that would be great to see you guys there.
When is
it's tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Cool.
And then the 4th annual community barbecue honoring first responders is, obviously September 11th. And I believe the start time is 5 to 8. Gelati go backwards. Gelati is 6 to 7. The start time for the first responder barbecue is 5 to 8. We're all planning on being there. We sent out an email to all the firefighters, letting them know that, a lot of people put a lot of time into doing this, and we'd like to see as many as we can. Everybody has personal time in life, but, they really put a lot of time in it. It'd be nice to see everybody there, as many people as we can. So if the board can attend, that would be phenomenal. And then, again, reminder, the CSDA annual conference in Anaheim is September 25th through the 28th. We need to get those registrations in. We get the early bird. I think we're still at early bird. Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting the rooms and all that situated. And then we'd either have a choice of flight or drive. I think Tosh has mentioned he wants to go and he wants to drive.
No, well, I was thinking,
Now you want to fly?
well, if it's going out of Stockton,
Yeah.
then say because just don't like to go to Sacramento,
Oh,
to fly out of Sacramento.
yeah, because it fly into LAX, so potentially do that. Yeah, so please reach out to Rhoda through email or any kind of correspondence and let her know if you're interested in going. It'd be nice to get everybody in because in order to get that distinguished governance, right? We need to get everybody trained and a couple other extra hours, which we could do through webinars or extra training. So we're planning on, now that we got your tablets, we're gonna get you guys set up. Now you guys, you believe it or not, we have access to a lot of conflict of interest, sexual harassment, all that stuff can be done on your computers, and we print out certifications for them. So Target Solutions is phenomenal. So we're looking forward to that. And then that's all I have. I don't think I had anything on anything I think we've added yet. There'll be new ones next month for the strategic operational plan. So that's all I have.
Any questions on the report from the board?
Oh, let me ask, go ahead. So I've been to the police chiefs years ago. How does this work? Do the people get the stuff for free, or they have to pay for it?
No, they have to pay for it.
Okay, just in case somebody asks me.
That's a good point. Because I will be broke.
Observation, driving home, I see that Station 33 has their new concrete pad out front.
Yeah.
So, do they have to do the back too, or just so that wait a couple weeks before they can do that?
Yeah, so we got the front done, it'll cure, and then we're gonna tear out, the asphalt comes out too, everything. So we did have a little bit of an extra charge because, and I had a feeling that when we pulled up the concrete, it was gonna be, there was nothing underneath it, no base at all. And then on top of that, it was just wire, a wire mesh, no rebar, no nothing. So it wasn't too bad. We had already planned on putting rebar in there, so that was already in the bid. We just had to put some base down. But it was right on top of the sandy soil. Yeah, it was just, but you know, that happened at Station 1 too. When we tore that up, that's all that they had on that
I
one
didn't
too.
see the base before they poured. When did they put the base? Do you know when they laid the base down?
Yeah, Chief Medowski. Because that's a great question if he didn't see it.
No, I don't sit in front of the fire station either, so.
So the base was laid down yesterday? Apologies. The base was laid down yesterday, and then the concrete, I'm sorry, they're all starting to run together. Day before yesterday, and then they poured immediately following that.
Okay,
Yeah. And we've got pictures as well for that,
very good.
for the file.
Thank you.
All righty. Any other questions? We'll move to item 10.2, Chief's update of district goals and objectives.
So nothing to update this meeting, and next meeting, we'll have some new ones to put on there.
Perfect. Any questions? We'll go to board
Yeah.
comment. Ms. Rhodes? Any comments?
Oh, thank you. The open houses, I was able to make 3 of them. They were a lot of fun. So thank you to all of the firehouses, all of the firefighters, everybody that worked on it, staff, chief, everybody. They were just really, really good. I wasn't able to make the pinning for the 2 firefighters because Lathrop had the big celebration and I wanted to take my little granddaughter. But I did go to the reserve one, and I got to tell you, I was really, really impressed by the caliber of our reserve, group. And same thing happened before. We're getting some really, really amazing folks, wanting to at least spend some time with us. If nothing else, hopefully maybe in the future, when there's openings, apply. Outside of that, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Cole?
Oh, I do have something, I'm sorry, I'm
Yes.
sorry. For the chair, for the barbecue, last year, we made sure that our chairperson said a few words. There's a lot of focus put on the city, which is great. We live in an amazing city, but at the same time, the fire department is separate from the city, so we want to make sure that our board chair, at least, is represented up there when they do all of the different things. So Chief, you've helped us in the past with that. If you can kind of work that in.
I will make sure that happens.
Okay. Yeah, I plan on going.
Whoever's
That'd be good.
there will speak.
Yeah, we'll That's a good point. Thank you. Director Cole?
I'm looking forward to hopefully a lot of people that are interested in filling the open seat, and anyone that's on the fence or has any hesitation, please make that step and give it a try.
Thank you. Director Tosh?
Yeah, I want to thank all the ones that participated, firefighters, the staff on all the open house. I did attend all of them except the first one. I was short because we had to go to Napa, but the rest of them, and the staff did a fabulous job, setting up, and especially on the pinning. Last one, the last moment, I know, Haley, you got to give you credit, pretty hard doing this last minute, thing. And also, the new business card is really great, excellent. And also, Haley, thank you for this one here. I think it gets me into this building here, isn't it? So, but thank you, appreciate that.
No, thank you. I like to just end with the directors. Thank you guys for all your hard work and attendance. I wasn't able to go to open houses, but the pinning ceremonies was tremendous. But just to have the open houses and open up each agency for the neighborhoods to attend is tremendous. And they always look really well, and that's a lot of hard work. So thank you to your firemen and your staff for doing that. The pinning ceremonies were very, very special. I mean, it's just, I've gone through it myself, but it's really something to see the families come together, no matter what level, from being promoted to having their very first ceremony, being a reserve. It was just very impactful. And like Tosh said, thank you to staff for putting that together. It still went really well for the amount of people that attended. Very, very positive. But just to see the families, it's a serious and a huge honor. And I think you guys taking the time to make that special. I really appreciate you allowing your staff to speak and give out that too, because it's a shared thing. You saw the trainers; they took such great pride in that reserve group that we hope to just build from that. It was tremendous to see the trainers. Kind of rooting for those in reserves, and I know they'll continue with the good days and bad. So that's really good. With the heat, knock on wood. I know that we have some cooling centers. I know the Valverde Park Community Center, but also we have to keep our firefighters in our hearts and prayers too, because there's no cooling center if they get the call. So, knock on wood, we're really hoping that we can get through this fire season, but I know that, the weather has been, pretty much overall in our favor. So, with that, any other comments? We'll adjourn the meeting, and thank you.
Thank you. Good meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, Fresno is slowly